Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Benjamin Boyce, and today's conversant is Shane Cole, who is the owner and operator of Inspiritus Breathworks down in LA. He's about to graduate from college and is into alternative forms of healing. And in this conversation, we talk about his transition and detransition and how that was facilitated by an addiction to emasculating graphic materials that he found online. This emasculating graphic material is also known as Sissy Hypnosis, and it hijacked his mind and made him hate himself. And he delves into how that addiction ramped itself up, caused him to indulge more and more in cross-dressing, and then put himself in more and more dangerous situations, and how he went through stages of recovery and wrestling his masculine energy back from this technological system that had hijacked him. Consider liking, subscribing, and donating to the channel if you want more of this content, and also follow Shane via the links below. Without further ado, here is Shane Cole.
How's it going, man?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Sorry about yesterday. I had the craziest week of my life
Oh,
last
good.
week.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you win a
Um,
prize or?
yeah, I went to the carnival. I won a prize. No,
Huh.
I um, I led the largest breathwork event of my life.
Mhm.
And it went really, really well. It was on Saturday, but yeah, when I scheduled to talk with you, I was in the middle of planning that, and I just got the date wrong. So I'm sorry about
That's all
that.
good. It's all good. It all worked out.
Yeah, I like your sweater.
Thank you. It's a little Christmassy, but we can squeeze it into this season.
Dude, you could. It's an Easter sweater.
Yeah. It's very springy, isn't it?
Yeah,
In a kind of Swedish spring.
yeah.
What general area of the country are you in? Because it looks like you're in a southern place, the way you're so cozily dressed.
Yeah. I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
Yep, in LA. I'm from Colorado, but I go to college at USC in Los Angeles
What are you studying?
and psychology.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so this is my senior year, so I'm just about to graduate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
ever,
yeah.
do you know what's going to happen after that, or you just?
Yeah, I mean, I'm running my breathwork business. I formed my LLC this spring and I'm going all in on that. So, yeah.
It's a very California thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely West
Yeah.
Coast hippie.
So there's definitely a
Where
market for it. Yeah.
yeah. Where are you at right now?
Oh,
Where
I'm
are
in
you?
Washington State.
Oh, great. Where at?
Yeah. North of Seattle,
Cool. Cool.
the Snohomish Valley.
Cool. I went to Washington for the first time um last August for a music festival at the Gorge Amphitheater.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice place.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So yeah, I'm super grateful that you invited me on the podcast. I had a great conversation with Christina
Yeah.
and she was a very sweet lady.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm wondering if you had an opportunity to read any of the paper
Yeah.
that
I
I
read it.
sent you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, I would love to talk to you about that and its contents.
hmm
But yeah, what are your expectations for this interview? What are you thinking about?
Well, I allow the conversation to unfold on its own terms. So I like to have a biographical anchoring,
Okay.
especially in stories like this, which would be detransitioner, transitioner stories. Also, there's certain, I guess there's kind of intuitively, I'll be asking about things to get more information, not only to round out this particular podcast episode, but also to round out or broaden the map that I've been making through these interviews
Mhm.
into the detrans and the trans experience, especially with the male. Because oddly enough, transition affects males and females differently,
Yeah.
and the causes are different for that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a gender identity, and do you still have a gender identity?
Hmm. I did. I was, I was born male, grew up male. I was raised in a very hyper masculine environment. My I grew up in a ski town in Colorado, and my dad was a ski racing coach and a strength and conditioning coach for professional athletes. And yeah, I basically grew up flinging myself off of cliffs and ski racing at 60, 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And yeah, have you seen ski race suits before? Have you seen like the speed suits people
I don't
wear
know.
they're like these like skin tight suits that you wear so you're like go faster, so you're more aerodynamic.
Yeah.
Um, but what happens is when you're skiing and you're out in the winter, it's freezing, only wearing like the skin tight thing. So it's just like I did grow like my childhood was really great. Like I had a really awesome childhood, but I definitely got that like really intense like suck it up. Like you're gonna be working out at 6 in the morning and then ski
Mm.
racing and you're gonna be out in the cold and like you just gotta fucking do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and my dad was like super in that world and I love him to death, you know, but I had around the fifth grade, I started having desires to dress as a girl and to
Mm.
be feminine. And I think it was this part of myself coming up to kind of counterbalance the like hyper masculine world I was in.
Hmm. Wait, so you were 10 or 11?
Yep, around that time.
Hmm.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I had no idea how to talk about it. I was terrified of talking about it, so I didn't talk about it with anyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term autogynephilia?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
of course,
Does
definitely.
that map onto your experiences? Was it intertwined with not only like a feminine or a desire to manifest the feminine, but also a sexual proclivity?
So it's hard to know if it was autogynephilia because it was right when I was hitting puberty, like right when I was hitting puberty, so I just started getting erections anyways.
Yeah.
Um, but that was also when I found the sissy stuff. So, um, because I didn't talk about it with anyone, I didn't share these feelings I had inside with anyone. I went online to find community um to see. So I started typing into Google search like boy turns to girl. And I started reading these stories about it. This was like fifth grade, sixth grade. And then sixth grade, I got my first iPhone. And I got Instagram. And then Sissy, um, I found the Sissy memes on Instagram. So before we dive into this, had you
Yeah.
heard of this? Had you heard of this type of content, pornography, before the paper I sent you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's
had, yeah.
pretty, the discussion is pretty, joins the discussion on why people transition, specifically why males transition.
Hmm.
And that comes up. The pornographic influence comes up.
Totally.
But being an 11 or 12-year-old and having access to the internet, having access to infinite pornography, before, like, that's really putting the cart before the horse. Before you have, have explored or expressed your sexuality in the physical world, you're interacting with it in the virtual world.
Yes.
It's topsy turvy.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I found probably one of the darkest, most twisted types of pornography there is from the get-go.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, there are things that are worse, obviously, but it was the sissy stuff is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um, because it certainly has malicious intent, in my opinion. Um,
How
so
so? This is going to be a little uncomfortable for people who don't want to think about this stuff, but let's just
yeah,
go there
I
since we're
mean,
here
yeah,
going there.
we have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
People need to know what this pornography is and what it's doing to boys and men. And I'm totally willing to share about it and to tell my own experience. So basically, what I found were sissy memes first. So it was these memes. It was on Instagram, so it wasn't like fully pornographic in nature. So it was pictures of like really hot women, um, with meme captions, and the women were like holding up panties, and the meme captions were like, "You know, you want to be a girl, like being a girl is way better than being a boy," or you know you love wearing panties, like
Hmm.
you should wear panties. So it basically drew you in with the thing that you wanted, which is the sexy girl, and then had the meme captions that were targeted and directed towards men and boys to make them want to be a girl, to transition. Um, so I stuck with the memes mostly through middle school and high school, and I did not tell anyone. I did not tell anyone. And I did a really good job of compartmentalizing it. Um,
Well, what was the more or less the sensation of being in
hmm,
that headspace? Like, was
yeah,
it liberation or emasculation, or the opposite of liberation, being given a purpose? And there's also so there's the erotic thing that's capturing you, but what was added to that?
yeah, totally. So it was an escape. It was an escape from the responsibility of being a man, basically, and like what a man is in this world. And
Hmm.
as I was in middle school, later in middle school and high school, I went to a super liberal school,
Yeah.
which there was a lot of great things about it. Like we went camping a bunch, and like I developed a really deep love of nature from it. Like I loved my school to death, but also there was so much talk about toxic masculinity,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
it
Hmm.
seemed like from my perspective, there was only one way being a man was gonna go, and that was being a toxic man.
Hmm.
So like the Me Too movement and everything was in there when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I think that like needed to happen for women, like I'm totally cool with that. But all of this combined with this addiction that I had to the sissy porn,
Yeah.
um, it offered an escape from being a man, which seemed like not a good thing, like a really bad thing that I wanted, that I was being, that not just the pornography, but society at large didn't want me to go there. Like it didn't want me to be a man.
Okay. Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were longhoused and from two directions, from the direction of your society, your social society, which wants to repress the masculine, and to cast the masculine as negative, probably because it can't control the masculine. The masculine's too energetic. The masculine's too inventive. The longhouse wants orderly, manageable people in
Yes.
it,
Yes.
and males have a proclivity to not follow the
Yes.
rules. So,
Yes.
and or exert hierarchical forms of power. That's going on in your headspace, in your personal space. That's also being manifested by this propagandistic inundation that's latching hold of your sexuality. What about girlfriends? What about like
Yeah.
actually in the interacting with actual females rather than just the feminine?
Yeah. So, um, like I said, I did an incredible job of compartmentalizing it.
Hmm.
And from the outside looking in, I was like, I'm a masculine boy, ski racer, like
Hmm.
pretty good looking, not like overly attractive, but I started to have, yeah, my first girlfriend. I was 16. Um and
Hmm.
yeah, I that was the first my first girlfriend was my first kiss, and I lost my virginity to her, and she was really, really beautiful. Um that relationship threw me in the deep end. Um she
You
had
really
a
committed? You guys were
no,
really
no,
like integrated, or?
she had gone through
Hmm.
she had gone through sexual assault before we started dating, and I had never known someone been suffered from like a serious mental health disorder, because she was suffering from PTSD from it. And she was asking me questions like, why do I feel like it was my fault? Like, why am I guilty for it? And I was 16 at the time. So this was like, whoa, like this
Mm.
is it it broke me out of it started to break me out of my individualistic, egoic identity. The pain and the intensity of the pain that she was going through really started to break me open in a really it was really hard during the time, but it broke me open in a really beautiful way.
Hmm.
Um, and I started reading about my aunt had sent me some books on Buddhism during that time, and I had stopped reading out of curiosity for a while. I was like playing video games, like doing all the boy stuff, reading stupid, throughout middle school and beginning of high school. But then when that relationship was happening, I started reading some of those books. The first one was a Thich Nhat Hanh book, The Heart of the Buddhist Teachings. And that really started to open my heart up a lot. Um, the relationship didn't last very long because her mental health declined and she needed to find help, and she couldn't be in a relationship during that time,
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately. But
Did that did her experience of being treated that way by a male also feed into your conception of like negative male
100
as villain?
totally,
Yeah,
totally,
okay.
totally, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Which is like valid. Like that man was a villain to my girlfriend, like 100%. But that definitely continued the emasculation,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, that was taking place.
Hmm. And how did Buddhism like intersect? You talked about compartmentalization, but did Buddhism intersect with this taking the male and the female, the yin and yang, and intensifying them rather than finding balance, finding some sort of like really strong intensification through pornography, memes, etc.
Um, Not necessarily during that time. Um, it was definitely my spiritual connection that helped me heal later on. So that's why I bring up the beginning part, but it didn't really play into the intensification
Okay.
of how I was consuming the pornography. But it did start to get more intense as I got older.
Yeah.
Um, when I graduated high school, so that was my first relationship, and then I dated two other girls throughout high school. And it was like, yeah, outward appearance, like I'm killing it. Like I have a six pack. I'm ski racing. Like
Yeah.
I'm on the lacrosse team. Like I'm killing it. But I have this thing that I've compartmentalized.
Hmm.
So I graduate high school. For some reason, that June in Colorado is super rainy. And in the mountains, it's like cold rain. So it's like supposed to be summer, but it's just raining every day and it's
What
really
year is
cold.
this?
2019, I graduated high
Okay.
school.
Okay.
2019. And I fall deeper into the rabbit hole and I start finding sissy hypnosis pornography. So this was a step up from the memes, um, in a big way. It's basically professional grade hypnosis videos that basically so it's pornographic. It has videos of like trans women, cross dressers, and then it's using binaural beats, swirling screen, repeated mantras, um, to again convince men and boys that they're actually trans and and it's not just about being trans, it's about being a prostitute, like about completely like pouring yourself out, giving up all responsibility and being like, I mean, some of the repeated things are like being like a dumb sissy bimbo or
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And it was like fully basically making you feel horrible about being a man, like playing on like you have a like playing on common male insecurities, making you feel a lot of shame for being a man, and then giving you this out. You should cut your dick off. You should transition. You should start on HRT. Like these are things it was directly saying using professional grade hypnosis
Yeah.
techniques. Um, so it was dark. It was really dark. It was really
Yeah.
dark. So yeah, where are you at in this conversation? Do you have any questions you want to dive in on with this or keep going or what do you want?
So you find this stuff, you're doing this voluntarily, you're doing this intentionally. You're seeking it out.
Ugh.
You're
No,
looking for
no,
it.
no.
No.
I was intentionally seeking it out when I was in the fifth grade, when I was typing in boy turns to girl. But by
Hmm.
the time I'm in high school, I'm addicted. Like I'm fully addicted to this. Like I try and I'm like going through life like I like I'm going through life walking around normal day to day, feeling like genuine attraction towards women, not feeling attraction towards men in
Yeah.
day to day. And it's fine if you're gay, like I don't care, you know, but that's just where I was at. But then late at night when I would find myself with this stuff, then my whole identity would start to be warped by it, not just my gender identity, but also my sexual identity. And it was just really confusing. But
Hmm.
I found it when I was in the sixth grade, and because because it was like playing on these emotions of shame, I was fully addicted. Like I tried masturbating to pictures of normal women, you know. I tried and my relationships went well. Like it didn't get in the way of my high school relationships at all. Um, but I still watched it um, during the relationships,
Yeah.
because I was addicted, because I was
Okay.
fully addicted. Like I could not the dopamine hits from that type of pornography was just so insanely massive. I could not get myself out of it. Like I was scared. I was really scared.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially when I started after I graduated high school and I started going into like the hypnosis videos. I was starting to get scared.
Yeah. Do If you end up having a son, what are you going to teach him about pornography and the internet? Are you going to give him access to that? Do you think that kids should have access? Like what are you thinking at this point in time?
Um, I think that's a question for later in the conversation because it's like the answer to that question is deeply linked with how I found healing from
Okay.
this.
All
I
right.
do want to have kids. I do like I would love to have a son and um I I'm going to protect him from pornography and have the right conversations, but as I'll talk about in the healing, it's also about showing that in in self in self masturbation and also normal sex, there's way higher sacred forms of pleasure that you can experience when you apply mindfulness, breath work, and breathing to masturbation or to a sexual experience with a partner. There's way higher, more beautiful forms of pleasure you can experience than when you get sucked into the prefrontal cortex pornographic haze.
Yeah.
It's a very limited type of pleasure. So
Okay.
teaching my son that there are
It's
higher
intense,
forms of
but it's
pleasure.
also constricted.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So teaching him how to do that, how I've started to teach myself, would
Well,
be
I bring that up as a way to more kindly phrase um, the question about a failure in safeguarding for you.
mm,
What do you wish
yeah,
your parents had done for you to protect you from this? And I'm sure they didn't do this intentionally.
no, no,
Parents of your parents' generation, I think, were largely caught unawares of the power of the internet and just handed it over to their kids, having no idea that this is probably the most phenomenal psyop um, in the history of humankind.
yeah.
And they just kind of, you probably grew up with a little phone, probably grew up just like surfing
Yeah,
the internet like it was.
sixth grade, I got an iPhone.
Yep. Yep.
Sixth grade. I love my parents. They did an incredible job raising me. There, there is nothing they could have done. Well, there is, but with where they were at, like you said, they had no idea. They were totally ignorant. So my
And you
mom
didn't
has,
feel that you were able to reach out and get help. You felt very alone. When you
yeah,
typed in boy becoming girl, did you also type in pornography addiction later on in life?
no, no.
Oh,
I had no idea that would
oh,
lead to that. I had
okay.
no idea. So I think, you know, my I think we have too strict ideas of what it means from an outward appearance to be a boy or a girl in our society. I think if boys could just wear dresses for fun while they're like growing up and exploring, and that doesn't mean anything about their gender identity, like I think that would go a huge way in
Hmm.
helping people in because I think that those strict rules make it so that if boys get desires to start to wear dresses, then our society's telling them, oh, that's because they're trans, and you can only
Yeah.
do that if you become a girl, you know? And that's just I think that's bullshit, personally. But it's the same, like we're seeing like the tomboy erode,
Hmm.
and it's like oh, like you're feeling this way, you should transition, rather than saying like, oh yeah, that's okay to express yourself differently. Like that's all cool, you
Yeah.
know? So I think if I had a bit, and not just me, but I think if a lot of boys had more room to explore and like that exploration didn't mean anything about their
Hmm.
gender identity, that just the fact that they're kids and it's okay for kids to explore, I
Yeah.
think that would have been helpful.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, but I would also pose that there's a certain amount of psychological and erotic charge around the forbidden, and human beings are going to find something forbidden in order to violate that. So even if totally agreeing, this whole transition narrative is phenomenally destructive. But also with regard to male sexuality or sexuality in general, the taboo is still going to have this power to captivate, to capture, and to pull in. And playing with that line, wherever that line is going to be a place where you can get trapped. You can
True,
get booby
true,
trapped.
true,
Yeah.
true. No, you're right. You're right. Um, but yeah, I don't really want to comment too much on how I think my parents could have done a better job because they really tried their hardest, and
Yeah.
with everything that I went through, they do have like I know my mom has like regret, and she doesn't have to, so I don't really feel
Yeah.
comfortable.
Well, I mean, it's not just about your parents, and I totally
Totally.
respect you cordoning that off, but any parents that might be listening to this, or or just the culture of parenting, to
Yeah,
become
I guess
aware
I
of
could
this,
speak
to
on that.
diminish the possibility or the probability of something happening to
Totally.
you. Yeah.
I think parents have to do their own work around their hangups and sexuality because they need to be ready to have conversations with their kids about anything because the internet exposes our kids to anything and everything.
Mm. Mm.
So, I think, I think if and I've talked about this with my parents, I think if they said like if they said but also truly embodied this, that you can share anything with me. Like you do not need to hold it on the inside, no matter
Yeah.
how weird of pornography you're watching, no matter how weird things you get sucked into on the internet. Like I am here for you. I'm here to listen. I'm here
Mm.
to help you. And you have to do internal work to get there as a parent, to actually embody that. You have to do that because there is a lot of shit on the internet that's super fucked up, and if you say that as a parent, you have to be ready for anything, like you actually have to be ready. So
Mm.
I think that for me, if I knew that, but also more importantly, if I felt that from my parents that I could actually do that, then I could have talked with them and gotten help sooner. But
Mm.
that's hard. Like I'm telling you,
No,
that's hard,
absolutely. Yeah. No, you're
So
you're obviously being very respectful. And that's true. Did you have any? This is the other problem. If it's not the parents, then it might be school counselors. Did you have any other access to any mentor, any third party, even a pastor or somebody to look up to that wasn't your dad, that you were able to explore these topics with? And did the internet not just randomly put you in, like, I don't know, NoFap or something like that when you get into this fear mode, like, whoa, what am I doing to myself? I'm really shamed. Did you look for help? And did you find any help?
I didn't really look for that much of help
Okay.
throughout middle school and high school. Um, because it wasn't horrible during middle school and high school. I had compartmentalized it really well, but that summer when I fell into Sissy Hypno, that was that was the first time I told anyone. And I told the
Mm.
girl that I was dating at the time.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Mm.
and I started just by saying I had had desires for a long time to dress differently. And I didn't go into the full details of the pornography, but I told her like I've also been struggling with this addiction, so I'm kind of unsure if it's because of this or if it's because I genuinely do want to dress as a girl. But she was super open about
Huh.
it, and um, thankfully, because I was the first person I had told ever. So I was 18,
Mm.
and then yeah, she was like she like put some makeup on me and like did that whole thing, and that was fun. And I like really cared about her. Like she was really awesome.
Mm.
Um,
That's sweet.
but yeah, it was definitely helpful to have that opening. And then 2 weeks after that, I was going to a rave at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. I was seeing one of my favorite artists, Grizz, and I was going with one of my best friends who was a girl during go to that, and I told her before the same thing. And I that rave was the first time I dressed as a girl in public. Um, and yeah, it was a great experience. It was because, like I had compartmentalized so much,
Yeah.
so that was really fun. It was a really good time, and it felt liberating, and that was really great. Um, and yeah, all things were with that were pretty good. Um, After that, I didn't really, I kind of left it alone for a while. I was a spring admit at my college at USC. So that fall I had off and I lived in Nepal for 3 months.
Hmm.
Um, and I went on a cultural immersion program there and I got super into meditation. I learned meditation from Tibetan Buddhist monks. Um, had a yoga guru for 3 weeks. We backpacked all over the Himalayas. And we didn't have our phones for the 3 months. So it was the longest break I had from that pornography
Yeah.
since I started watching it, which was really great. Um,
What happened,
and
if you can recall, what happened to
yeah,
the latent desires to, cross dress or
they were
whatever?
still there. They were
Okay.
still there, and I wanted to continue doing that when I got to college. I knew in Nepal it would not be like culturally appropriate at all.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I was fine with that. But it was still there for sure. Um, and that was the first time I opened up to the entire group of students on that trip. So that was the first time I had opened up to men about it. Um, and that went well. So I had really good friends on that trip. So um, yeah, but yeah, learned a lot. That was, and then get back to the United States. January 2020, I start college, and then I have 8 weeks of real school, and then COVID hits, and I get sent home. So I got like a little taste of college life, like a little taste, and then I got sent back.
Yeah.
And I was planning on starting to cross-dress and explore that side of myself, but then I get sent home with my parents, and yeah, I so then I didn't explore it for a long time during COVID and through all that. So,
But you're cut off. Well, to what degree were you pandemicked? To what degree were you locked away from society?
I had it good. I was in my town in the mountains, so I could go hike and
Okay.
backcountry ski. So I could get outside and do things and have social interactions. And it was like liberal, but it wasn't full. It wasn't like insane on the masking. So like I had interactions with friends outside and yeah, like it wasn't horrible. So I had it pretty good, but I definitely fell back into the pornography very
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
during during COVID, like most people did. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the statistics of how most of the porn I watched was on Reddit, on the Sissy Hypno subreddit. And I was looking at statistics on how the subscribers have grown. And at the beginning of COVID, it was at 100,000 subscribers. Now, last fall, I checked and it was at 375,000 subscribers. And now it's at 425,000 subscribers. So it's
Hmm.
like exponentially growing. But COVID, you see it like really start to tick up um during that. So I'm sure you've talked to other people.
Well, I mean, the response to the COVID novel coronavirus was rather emasculating for a lot of people. So it kind of makes sense that we'd take out our fetishistic with all the masking and all that control, all that locus of control being situated in some sort of central authority with complete and utter power over how you behave and every minor social interaction is could. I knew there would be some sort of, I'm not making a correlation or causation kind of argument and stuff, but
Yeah, yeah.
there's something, there's something that rhymes between the state and that state. But it also, what you're bringing up is also pointing to a huge um, social trend. And what are the implications of that? We will probably be dealing with, I think it's hidden right now, but how did it affect you?
COVID with the porn.
Yeah.
Um,
Did the porn start to erode your, I don't know how you want to frame it, like your ego or your ability to self-regulate your emotions, your sense of self-respect, your sense of identity?
Basically, what it started to sow in me was a shame around the entirety of my masculine energy. So, if we think about like the masculine and feminine energies from like a spiritual or like Jungian depth psychology perspective, the masculine is that penetrative force, while the feminine is the receptive force. So it's not just so obviously like the penis, right? The penetration, but it's the
You don't
energy.
say.
Yeah. So but it's like the spiritual energy. So like
Yeah.
bringing ideas into this world, communicating effectively, um, getting what you want or what you desire. Or like bringing a business into this world. I started to develop this underlying shame that was like made me feel like a horrible person anytime I would assert myself
Huh.
in the world. Um, so this started to weaken me. And it was under the surface. I started experimenting with psychedelic medicines during the time, mushrooms, acid, and I since coming back from Nepal, I started to take on a more spiritual perspective with them, but I was still just a college kid fucking around with them, you know? But that shame would really come out during these psychedelic journeys. And
Mm.
I just thought, oh, I'm just getting all these bad trips, you know? Um, but it wasn't until quite recently a psychedelic trip that I did that I want to go more into detail about later. But did I realize it was shame that the pornography was programming in me?
Mm.
So yeah, it wasn't just about being um, turning yourself into a sissy, turning yourself into a prostitute. It's eroding it, it's eroding the masculine energy.
Okay. It's a full frontal assault on that. And so it's not just a kink, it's not just a fetish, it's not just something fun that gets you off. It does that, it does all that and more, and it starts to reshape your relationship to yourself.
Yes. Yes. In a
Yeah,
not a good way.
not a good way. Who would have thought? How did you I mean, deal with that all that negative emotion? Just kind of
Well,
stuff it down?
yeah, I just stuffed it down. I mean, I've lived a pretty good life, and I
Yeah.
had a lot of outlets for it, but I started sharing it more and more, and then um yeah, this was 2020. I moved out to LA fall 2020. Even though classes were still online, I wanted to live with other college students, and I found a
Mm,
house with other USC students. So we all lived together, lived online. Um, that like sent me even deeper into the pornography
really?
because I was in a new place that I with new people I didn't even really know, and I didn't get along with some of them. Some of them were like hyper feminist, communist. So like that played even more into it. Like I remember 2 weeks after getting there, or even a week after getting there, I was sharing an opinion on some political topic that wasn't even that charged. And one of the girls said, "Shut up, Shane, you're a straight white man." Like you can't have an opinion on this. So
Yeah.
like that was kind of the energy I was living in that house. So
Yeah.
like that sent me even more
That's
in,
not emasculating, is it? Is it that not emasculating as well?
yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is for sure. And that so that sent me even deeper into it. So I'm like classes are online. I'm watching this shit like every day or twice a day. I am like sad. Like I'm like and I'm also I don't know what I want to do with my education at all. I before going to Nepal, I was like super into politics and wanted to go into politics. I signed up to be an international relations major, but I
Hmm.
went to Nepal and it was very destabilizing to my worldview. I was like, wow, like so much of this, so much of the political structure is just a game that's like really not helping people. I became really just, it was during the Trump election or like the Trump presidency. And like, I mean, obviously both sides not doing a good job. And I became super disillusioned from going into politics. I was like, this just looks like a ridiculous game. That's like a power struggle. And I think there are more effective ways of helping people and helping the world
Hmm.
outside of this. I don't know what they are. So I just said, fuck the system. And then I had nothing, I had no purpose or direction in how I wanted to contribute. So I'm in LA, super lost, fucking addicted to this porn. I don't have good friends. Or like solid for some of the people in the house were really nice. I did have some good friends in the house, but it was also like definitely wasn't my group. Um,
Yeah.
which is fine. Like they're their own people, you know. So yeah, that was pretty brutal. And then so I started experimenting with cross-dressing in my own room during that. So I was doing that a lot. Um,
What did that what did that serve?
it was the escape from the masculine. It was the escape from that. And it was also highly erotic.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then yeah, I got to a point where like I was so lost. I was like posting pictures of myself online. I wasn't showing my face, but I started contributing to the whole sissy junk.
Yeah. Femboy
Um,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I was in that for a bit. That was definitely not my
What did
best
that
or brightest
attention
time.
Yeah, what did that attention give to you?
I mean, I guess purpose in the deepest way. Like it was
Oh,
like I'm serving a purpose right now. Like I'm being no, maybe not purpose. I was being seen. I was being seen, and I felt like I wasn't being seen, because I was in LA with these new people that I didn't really know, who I didn't
yeah.
vibe with. So it was serving this purpose of I'm being seen by someone. I'm getting attention by
How old are you?
someone. 19,
19.
19. Yeah.
So, another aspect of this is the amount of adult men contributing to this and throwing young men into a meat grinder, cheering you, cheering you on.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And I mean, you could go there. I don't know if you did, and if you did, you don't have to say. But like, there's money to be made there too, you know. So like, it's not just attention.
Mm-mm. I didn't do that, thankfully. But oh yeah, it was a lot of attention and from yeah, just from fucked up people. So fall 2020, spring 21, um, you know, I joined a fraternity spring 21. So that was good. That was a good thing. Um, I found people to fuck around with and have fun with during COVID. I found a community. Wasn't planning on joining a fraternity when I got to college, but COVID and everything that I was going through, I was like, I need some help for sure. Like, I definitely need more friends, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I joined a fraternity and that was a lot of fun. Classes were still online. I flundered online classes, and in that fall. So I decided to take a semester off of school. because I wanted to have this semester on the back end when classes were back in person.
Okay.
So thankfully, the semester that I'm in right now is a result of me taking that semester off and waiting. So I'm really grateful I did that. Um, but in that January, before I like right around when I was joining the fraternity, I got COVID, and that was my first time getting COVID. So I'm locked in my room for 10 days, and I was blessed to be able to read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl while I was locked in my room. Um,
There's a
and
slight poetic rhyming again with that particular book in that particular situation.
yeah,
Kind of in a
yeah, I saw one of
concentration
your,
camp.
I didn't get to listen to the video, but I saw you have one video talking about Man's Search for Meaning.
Hmm.
Um, but sorry to interrupt you. What were
No,
you saying?
no, I was just bringing up the the picture of this book about concentration camps, and you're being holed up kind of in a concentration camp of your own
Yeah.
making. I don't know,
Yeah,
almost.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like this highly addictive pornographic propaganda had me locked in. You know, the world was shutting down into a dystopian world, and I
Yeah.
had to stay inside, you know. I had to stay inside, you know. But I read this book, and yeah, it was like, fuck, like I need some purpose in my life, you know, like
Hmm.
what's my purpose? And thankfully, something that really did keep me afloat and that kept me going in a really positive direction from the time I graduated high school to that point was I dove into reading. Like I was reading so much, more than a book a month from graduating high school, going through Nepal, all the way through COVID. I was just flying through books on philosophy, on meditation, on spirituality, on psychedelic assisted therapy. And I read Man's Search for Meaning, and after that, I took stock. I was like what lights me up? Like how do I want to contribute to the world? Like I got to figure something out. I don't at that point I don't know what I want my major to be at college. And so I just took stock of all the books that I read, and I
Hmm.
made a list, and I just found some common themes. And I realized something that had brought me a lot of hope for the future was the rising psychedelic assisted therapy movement. I had read a lot of the research around that, seeing how people were freeing themselves of lifelong addictions within a single trip in controlled environments, or freeing themselves from treatment-resistant depression. And I realized I always thought I was just going to be on the sidelines of that movement and watch it take place. Um, but I realized after reading that book, I thought to myself, oh, I could change my major now to psychology and I could become a psychedelic assisted therapist. Like I'm a sophomore in college. Like I could easily change my major now and pursue that path. And that seems like something that would be deeply fulfilling and purposeful. And I already have interest in it. So I was like, that moment was like a critical point for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and then very quickly after that, by a random, but not random, it was all in alignment. I got connected to Dr. Rael Khan at USC, who he works at the Brain and Creativity Research Lab, and he was doing brain scans on meditators and researching psychedelic assisted therapy. And I
Hmm.
got to work in his research lab. So like very quickly after I made that decision, I got connected to work and I started to help with that. But this was all while this was spring 21. I was in the fraternity, wasn't taking classes, fucking around, but I was also starting to find my purpose.
Hmm.
And I was still addicted to the pornography, even though I was in Greek life. And I just couldn't land it with girls at all at
Oh,
like during the parties. It was impossible for me to.
was that
Like I was
telling?
struggling.
Why?
What?
Why were you struggling? Was
Well,
your game
I
off, or is
think
it your
I,
vibe?
I think it was the vibe I was putting out because my masculine was wounded.
Hmm.
I think it was the vibe I was putting out. But I was also like just super nice and I was like, you know, thinking like getting into conversations about like the books I'd been reading or like stuff like that in the middle of the parties and like some of these girls just wanted to fuck, and I was just like ethereal and like in this like place of like trying to understand the world and purpose and
Huh.
stuff. And um yeah, so I think that was
Well,
a
maybe you just
positive
didn't meet
thing.
the right girl at a frat party.
I didn't. I found the right girl later,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Okay.
But yeah, any questions from this point? Anything you want to dive into
Yeah.
more?
The was there a thought of transition? Like, oh, if I transition, then I can fulfill myself. What were the thoughts? How did they come, and what did they serve?
So that summer, the pornography addiction was still going, and I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. And I had this thought that, maybe if I stopped hiding the fact that I want to cross dress, because there was shame in that like hidden secret that
Yeah.
I was holding on to. Maybe if I stop hiding and start cross dressing openly and like everyone knows and it's not a secret anymore, then I will be able to release the shame that's driving me into this addiction. Um, so I made a pact with myself that on the first day of school, fall 21, classes were going to be back in person. I made a pact with myself that I was just going to cross dress and do it and go all out.
Really?
And even though I was in Greek life, even though I was in a fraternity, I was like, I need to do this for myself. Like I I I need to do this. And my parents knew at that point, like I had told them during COVID and it didn't um
Told them what?
that I had desires to dress as a girl.
So
Um,
this is what you didn't want to be a girl. You wanted to dress as a girl. You didn't want to transition. You wanted to affect
at that
femininity.
at that point. So I started cross-dressing to school at USC, and I basically did it every day, almost every day. So I like came out to all my friends.
Came out how? As a crossdresser, as a transvestite, or as what?
As just cross-dressing, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
as just a cross-dresser, and um,
Did you get
but
hit
I
on by guys? Did the
um
masculine energy start to find you, seek you
it
out?
it did, and I think I wanted that because of the pornography. Um, and but I was also just down to explore too. Like I was fine with that. But there was no love there. Like there was no like real attraction. Like it was mostly because of the pornography. But what did happen was because I was cross-dressing, I stopped watching the porn.
Oh,
And that was the longest I had not watched it besides the Nepal experience. But that was different because I had access to it on my phone, but I just didn't feel the need to watch it. So I was like, I'm on to something. Um, and it was actually a really beautiful time in my life. Like it was really cool to explore that and go and do that. I like I love going to raves. I'm a big dubstep head, so like I had all these rave outfits that were like super exposing,
you
but were like
know, maybe that's been your problem the whole time. Not the porn, but the dubstep. Did you ever consider that?
probably.
So in online discourse, there's a lot of different people who are concerned about this topic, or invested in this topic, and one contingent that was first on the scene were derogatorily called the TERFs, but I think that they've claimed that as a badge of pride, being the trans exclusionary radical feminists.
Yeah.
And they're pretty hard line about keeping men out of women's spaces
Yeah.
and safeguarding issues and stuff. And sometimes that spills over into policing men's dress. Was dressing as a woman, did that have to do with appropriating femininity or violating women, or was it some sort of other expression of yourself? Did you want to, were you crossing the line into the woman space, or was it something else?
Um, I think it was something else because, you know, the rave outfits, that were like they were like women's rave outfits, but um a lot of women don't dress like that. it is like a hyper feminine, more exposed way. So
Yeah.
I guess there
Yeah, I was thinking about
was.
Googling it, but
y-
I'm gonna avert my eyes from that. But I
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like kind of
I guess there
slutty.
is, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And I
Okay.
guess there is like an appropriation of the woman in there and like what, if like, especially, and I think it definitely did have to do with the sissy stuff. But like dressing in this like hyper feminine exposed way to get attention. And then I'm saying I'm dressing like a girl, but like what does that even mean?
Yeah. What does
Like
that even
that's a
mean?
that's a construct, like
Hmm.
that's like why and that's what the turfs have contention about. Like, is it like is that sexist to think that's how women dress, But I don't think I was like intentionally trying to be sexist at all.
You're
I think
trying,
it
but
was
you were
more
trying to be
so
sexy.
I was trying to be sexy, and the attention that I got from that, like I remember the first festival I went to during this period when I was like fully cross-dressing and owning it, like the amount of attention I got, like positive attention from like women and men was like crazy. And I think something else that it did
Hmm.
was it made me feel, because of this emasculation of the masculine that I had experienced in my life, it made me feel safe to interact with women. It made
How?
me feel safe because
You weren't a threat to
I
them.
wasn't a threat to them. I wasn't a threat to them. So it gave me this layer of protection and I didn't like, I like, during that entire fall, like, I was like celibate. I was like completely on my own. Like, I didn't try to initiate. I didn't do anything with women. I just wanted to feel the closeness of feminine relationships. Um, and I got a lot more of that because I at least from my perception, my female friends felt safer around
Hmm.
me. So I think
Uh,
it was a way for me to try to get closer to the feminine.
what was the different are females in your age group in this environment in this culture attracted to the way that you were signaling
No,
or
no, not
okay,
necessarily. And that's why I didn't have any. That's
okay,
why I didn't have any. Like, I wasn't like, I definitely wasn't trying
you
to,
weren't trying,
and
but
I wasn't trying to,
you weren't
and
being
like that
attractive.
was not the
Okay,
intention at all. Because when I was at the raves and stuff, it was mostly like if there was anything sexual, like it would be with guys. But like
yeah.
I had this idea programmed in me that it was not safe to be a man at all. So I just wanted to have
Hmm.
deeper relationships with women,
Okay.
and I felt like I was being a lot safer with women.
But were you then putting yourself in danger with men, or were you able to handle that? You thought you could handle that, like you're
Yeah,
starting to attract
so I I
licentious.
I did. So after that fall, that December and January, I actually fell back into the Sissy Hypno like really hard. I like came like crashing down, and I started going out and like finding these random hookups with guys, and I put myself into situations where I got assaulted. Um, and yeah, it was not good. It was really scary.
Why throw yourself to the wolves like that? Do you feel like you're not? Are you aware of the danger that you're putting yourself into? And
Well,
is that part of the thrill or part of like some sort of like
yeah, oh
self
yeah, it was
extinguishing?
part of the thrill for sure. Because remember, I grew up ski racing. I was like in sixth grade,
Okay.
throwing
Yeah.
myself down the hill at 70 miles an hour,
So it
on a
engaged
pair
your
of
hippocampus or whatever that is, like the
the
juicy
amygdala. The
lizard. Yeah, amygdala.
amygdala
Okay.
is the
Yeah.
fight or flight response.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm a huge adrenaline junkie. So I also grew up in a small town, and I definitely. was like I was definitely a bit oblivious. Like I've definitely always been like more riding on the edge of danger, somewhat in an oblivious way. So that's how I put myself into those situations, and that's how that happened, unfortunately. And at that point, I was like, like nothing's working out for me, being like trying to be a man, like I'm getting all this attention from the world, um, from being a woman. I'm just gonna start taking hormones. And I started
Hmm.
that
Oh,
January.
could you tell me how you access those and the stellar, responsible healthcare system that gave you access to cross-sex hormones?
Well, so that fall before I went to the I didn't know USC had a gender affirming care team, but I
Oh,
found the UCLA one
okay.
and I went there and they did blood tests on me and they said like, yeah, you can start. And there was no mental health check before, like there was nothing, I'm sure you've heard all these stories. Like there
Well, I
was no
mean,
mental health check.
so a porn-addled identity crisis male comes in for this treatment, and they just do some blood work. What is even the blood? Why even do the blood work? I guess
Because
to
they have to check what your hormone levels are at
okay.
before you start. So they have a baseline.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Baseline. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but you, for males, you not only need the estrogen, you need the androgen blocker. And do you do
Yes.
that too? Do you block your?
Well, okay. So this is where it gets even darker. I my parents were like not on board with any of this, and we were getting into really intense arguments about it. So that January after I tried to find a workaround so they wouldn't know I was taking hormones. So I ordered bioidentical um estrogen and progesterone cream off of Amazon.
Oh,
And people can just do that, but it's really dangerous to start fucking with your hormone levels without a doctor watching you. Um, really, really dangerous. But I was in such a dark place, I was gonna do it.
why?
Um,
What would you get? You just wanted to flee from the masculine. You wanted to cut some part of yourself off. I mean, or give
I
yourself less access
yeah,
to
I
the.
wasn't into the surgery yet, but I wanted to flee from the masculine. I didn't think there was anything left from me in the masculine.
Okay.
And yeah, I was like, fuck it. Like this is what I'm gonna do. This is what feels right. And um the week I started taking those hormones, you could feel it instantly. Like it was crazy just putting the cream on you and like thoughts, emotions changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
How
The
did they
week
change?
Um, I forget exactly. It was 2 years ago
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
But yeah, just more emotional, less aggressive. Yeah, it was kind of fun, honestly. But
Talk about psychedelic.
I know, it's crazy. The week I started taking hormones was the week I met my girlfriend, who I've been dating for more than 2 years now. It was crazy synchronicity. Um, And we met while I was cross-dressed. That was like the first time we met. But she also saw me and hung out with me when I was just normal as a guy. And she was super down and open with me cross-dressing. But she also just really liked me just how I was as a guy. And
Hmm.
yeah, I things went really, really well. We really liked each other. We got into really good conversations. 3 weeks after meeting each other, I took her camping in Death Valley, and it was just us two. And I was a little nervous at first. I was like, things are going well, but this trip, we're either going to find out if we really like each other or if we really do not like each other. Like it's going to be 3 nights, just us. So things are either going to go really well or they're not going to go well. And I've taken girls on camping trips at like the beginning of things where it did not work out, and it was just brutal because then you're stuck with them for the rest of the time, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but the camping trip was awesome. We were just laughing and really enjoying each other's company the entire time. And on the last night, we did mushrooms together, and that went really, really well. It was a great time. We were just laughing the whole time. And at the end of it, I was just thinking to myself, like, Shane, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're taking these hormones off the internet that you know are gonna fuck you up. You know you're doing it because of the pornography. And then the last thought was, how can this girl find beauty in you, but you can't find any beauty in yourself? Like you're seriously lacking self-love right now, and hormones are not gonna hormones are not gonna fix that. That's what that's what the mushroom told me, basically. And after that trip, I stopped taking the hormones. So it was only 3 weeks I was on the hormones, thankfully. So I never fully transitioned, but I was going down a dark path,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and that moment was the start of my long road back to my masculinity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So
so that's a good way to frame it. Because I was wondering how does one how did you um, put pornography away or in its place? And rather than ask that, you opened up, or rather follow that path. You do a road back to your masculinity. So, what does that entail? And how
yeah,
does the pornography afflict or affect masculinity?
yeah. So it was a wild journey to get back. So that fall before I met Anna and the hormones and everything, I did my first breathwork journey. And I was just in this garage in Venice. And I don't know, have you heard of holotropic breathwork? Have you practiced breathwork before?
No, I
So,
breathe. I breathe on occasion.
so actually, going all the way back during COVID, I found Wim Hof, um, who does the Wim Hof method. He's the Iceman. He set all these world records in ice submersion
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
using his breath. And he has this breathing technique that comes from Tumo Tibetan breathing. And I did that during COVID, and just within 5 minutes, he has a daily practice. Just within 5 minutes, you instantly change your physiology and your consciousness. You get this high sensation come on in your body. Um, it's a really powerful feeling. So I started practicing that daily stuff during COVID, and it just helped me clear my mind, connect to my body, helped keep me sane throughout COVID. And then fall 21, I did my first breathwork journey. So it's that same type of controlled hyperventilation for about an hour. And it sends you into a full non-ordinary psychedelic state of consciousness. And in that journey, I went deeper than some of my psychedelic experiences just from breathing. And I was blown away. I was like, this is crazy. And what it showed me, it was a complete ontological shift in the way I viewed healing. Because in the West, we're always told that you're going to get this healing from a pill outside of you, from a psychiatric medication, from a hormone, um, from whatever it is. The healing comes externally. And what I experienced in this breathwork journey was a way to tap into my own ecstasy and bliss and reconnect to my body without taking anything outside of me. So that was crazy. And after that, I was still in the research lab with Dr. Khan, and I was like, the research was cool, but I really wanted to be more hands-on with people. I didn't want to wait until I got my PhD or whatever to start being a therapist or to be in the healer role. I wanted to find something that I could be more hands-on with people. So I was thinking like, oh, maybe I could become a yoga teacher or a meditation teacher. And then I did that breathwork journey. I was like, holy shit, like I could be a breathwork facilitator. Like this would be really cool. Like this is cutting edge stuff. So bring it back. Meet Anna. We go to Death Valley in February, and then So during that time, I was kind of scoping around for breathwork facilitator training programs, and I found this 9-month trauma-informed breathwork facilitator training program that was taught by Awaken Breathwork that I started April 22. So I was like 2 months after meeting Anna, 2 months after I stopped taking hormones.
Hmm.
And that every other week during those 9 months, we had a 3-hour live call where we would do an hour-long breathwork journey during it. And basically, what breathwork does is it changes blood flow direction in the brain and it short circuits your brain's emotional regulation system. So emotions, trauma, pain that you've pushed aside comes to the surface. So during
Hmm.
breath work, people will be yelling, crying, screaming. It's a very somatic, body-based psychedelic experience, and a lot of stored or trapped emotions can be released. And throughout that 9-month training, what I was able to do was reconnect to my body, fully reconnect to my body, and let go of the emotions and the trauma that was leading me to go back and keep watching the pornography. Um, and we covered a different emotional theme every other week. So it was a complete holistic approach. And then we had video modules every week teaching us how to be a world-class facilitator of these experiences. Um, but it after the 9 months, probably after I was probably like halfway through it, 6 or 7 months into it, I had completely let go of the dysphoria. I like no longer had the dysphoria anymore. Um, and it allowed me to not only did it helped me let go of my dysphoria, but it also allowed me to get a hold of the pornography addiction. This was in tandem with dating my girlfriend Anna. So that was also a big help. But I went from watching porn like every day. I had that break in the fall, but then I fell back into it. And I was watching it like every day, um, to like watching it like once every few months. So it's a huge decrease. And there were two reasons for that. A, the one that I already brought up, I was able to let go of the emotions and the pain that I wanted to numb using the porn. So I was able to regulate myself more. And
Hmm.
then B, breath work and meditation practices increase our available dopamine. Um, when we focus on our breath for that extended period of time, when we put ourselves into painful situations, because breath work, it's a basically a workout, this type of intense breathing for an hour straight. When you work out, when you do breath work, when you do ice plunges, you increase your available dopamine because your dopamine works on this pain pleasure balance. So if you're constantly gratifying yourself with porn or social media, then you're taking all the pleasure and it's going to force you, your dopamine reward system will force you to feel pain or depression or dread after. But if you work out, if you do breath work, if you do ice plunges, if you put yourself in painful situation, then it tips the scales so that you create pleasure once you face the pain and you have more energy and dopamine to be able to go out and achieve the tasks you want to do. So
Hmm.
by increasing the available dopamine, and this wasn't just from the breathwork journeys every other week, but also having a daily breathwork practice, that allowed me to get a hold of my addiction.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the 9-month breathwork training during 2022.
You didn't mention dysphoria at all until you mentioned getting over your dysphoria. So can you briefly
Oh,
just say what do you mean by dysphoria? Like you were
yeah,
just outside of your body,
for
you
sure.
disliked your masculine form, like what?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in fall 21, when I was cross-dressing every day, and also before that, during COVID and stuff, I started to hate my masculine form and
Yeah.
I wanted to have boobs. Like I didn't want to have strong arms. Um, yeah, I really like hated how I looked.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and that was definitely a large part due to the pornography. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
that was a living hell. Like that was horrible. Um,
Huh.
yeah, it was yeah, not fun. Um, so yeah, I definitely had that and was carrying that. And that was one of the reasons why it wasn't going well for me. I mean, I was trying to like hook up with girls in Greek life. There were a bunch of girls I was trying to date who I really liked, throughout 2020 and 2021. And I just got friend zoned, rejected like one after the next. And yeah, it was just tough. And
Huh.
that with the pornography, I really just started to like hate how I looked.
What's your view of pornography at this point in time, as a societal issue and as a personal issue?
I mean, as a personal issue, it's been my greatest teacher. Like, it was incredibly painful. It was the hardest going into that and then coming out um was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But it also pushed me to deeper into spiritual practices, deeper into spiritual work. And I live this like really crazy and awesome life now from everything that I've learned um at a very young age. And I'm grateful for that. It's awesome. Societally, it's it's eroding what healthy sexual relationships look like. Um, it's also stealing for men, it's stealing our life force from us. Um, you know, we when we can use our sexual energy in a healthy way and control it and use it for the highest good, that we can use that to have deeper relationships, to live more deeply in the present moment, to go out and like build a business or support an idea or protect the people we love, you know? When we're just giving it away all the time and we don't have any control over it, it's not
Hmm.
good. It's not good.
Hmm.
It's eroding healthy relationships in general, not just sexual relationships.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
And
Um,
you do you think a ban is warranted, or do you think awareness and education is the proper way to go?
I mean, I know a ban isn't warranted because then that creates, um, it creates the forbidden fruit. So education and really what's needed is again, relationship on how to relate to your own life force and sexual energy. So I did all the breathwork training, got certified. That's been awesome. I've been leading breathwork. And also like I have to mention, like Anna, obviously having Anna there, she gave me a purpose to beat the addiction, So going back to Man's Search for Meaning, like I love Anna so deeply. And I was really like, am I gonna let this like fucking addiction win over me,
Huh.
or win over Anna, or like, am I gonna fight for Anna? I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna fight for Anna. So I'm gonna do anything that I can. So breathwork training, huge, but it didn't fully clear out the sexual, it didn't fully clear out the brainwashing, I guess. It cleared out the dysphoria. So I was able to let go of that because it reconnected me to my body. It gave me control over the addiction and how I chose to respond to it. But my it would still the brainwashing thoughts would still penetrate and I'd still have intrusive thoughts
In what
for
form?
like, well, I mean, a lot of the intrusive thoughts came from the sexual assault experience, so that could have been post-traumatic stress disorder potentially, or like an aspect of it. I wouldn't say I had full PTSD, but it could have been a traumatic symptom.
Hmm.
Um, so that was, and then there was,
Why? Because your boundaries had been violated in that.
yeah, and it wasn't what was like complex about it. It was like it wasn't just my boundaries had been violated, but also a technological system had taken control over me and had put me into that situation. And that was scary to know
Huh.
that not only did it have that level of power over me, but over other people as well. So scary, scary.
Okay.
Um, yeah. But so it was still I that worked, helped the breath work helped so much, but it wasn't still fully out of my system. And I was hanging out with one of my friends who fully transitioned, detransitioned, male to female, female to male, and then went on this whole spiritual journey after it. Very powerful man. He's a Lakota sun dancer. So he did that whole initiation. I would love to connect him to you. He's a powerful,
Yeah, I'd
powerful
love to
guy.
speak with him.
But I was hanging out with him and he sent me this podcast. Uh, this therapist, Tyson Adams, who does internal family systems work.
Mm.
So I found Tyson Adams, who is an internal family systems therapist who specializes in helping men recover from pornography addiction.
Hmm.
So I started working with him remotely, and he
That's
was
Tyson
great.
Adams.
Tyson Adams. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And yeah, he's spectacular. And just recently, he put together him and three other men. The group is called the Rainmaker Project.
Hmm.
They put together this Costa Rica men's group retreat, um, where we did grief rituals, breath work. I led some breath work there. We did, but the main part of it was a mushroom ceremony, a psychedelic mushroom ceremony, in a therapeutic container. So we did internal family systems work on the front end and the back end of integration of the psychedelic ceremony. Um, and
How did that help?
it was wild. So basically, so we took the mushrooms, we did it in the Maloka in the ceremony room. It was wild. Before going in, there were so many weird synchronicities going up to it. So I did semen retention before, to prepare for it. And then all the Sissy programming was like coming to the surface
Mm.
right before the retreat because it was like its last chance. Like it knew it was going to die, from this. So it was kind of like grabbing on for its last thread. It was trying to rope me back in before this retreat.
Yeah.
And but I held steady. Great, made it to the retreat. Before getting to the retreat center, I we were getting coconuts at this random street stand, and there was this guy who walked near us with a shirt with the Africa content on it. And on the right side of the shirt, it said, "No sissies allowed." And I was like, this is a wild, wild synchronicity. But then we get
Huh.
to the retreat. Um, and before going into the mushroom ceremony, um, I looked at myself in the mirror before going in, kind of like last thought. I knew I was like going to go to war. Like I was going on this retreat to like get rid of that. Like I was going to end that. And I was looking at myself in the mirror and this last thought came up. It was like, you were such a good sissy. You were such a good sissy. Like the programming was like trying one more time and I was just like, whew, like we're going in. Like we're going to war tonight. Like we're going the fuck in. So do the mushrooms and that shame that I was talking to you about in the beginning came up, and it was very intense at the beginning. The shame of being a man, the shame of my masculine energy going out into the world, it came up, and it was so powerful. I wanted to like, there's a part of me that wanted to end it, to like commit suicide. And it was fine because like I had the facilitators there, to talk, and I didn't obviously make any action towards it, but
Yeah.
like that was the intensity of it. Um, and then during the journey, Tyson, he does bioelectric body work. So he has this electrical box basically that
Okay, so like from the Dune thing where you put your finger in it and you're tested.
I haven't watched it, so I don't
Okay,
know. But
it's a
it's
book or
basically
two, but
it sends electrical currents through your body that's safe for it to go through your body. So he had each man go on the massage table and he did Theragun work, like massage gun work, and then also the bioelectric work. And basically, we were able to tap into the trauma that was stored in the body in a very powerful way. So with the Theragun, we accessed the sexual assault trauma. Um, and so like that like fully came back into my vision and I was like there. And I went into a freeze response first, and Tyson was like, "Find your no, Shane. Find your no." At first, I couldn't. He's like, "Find your no," and and this could have only happened in within this container because of the trust, that we had built
yeah.
over our one-on-one work and the trust within the container. But yeah, he's like, "Find your no," and I just no, no, and then I just started screaming, "Fuck no!" Fuck no. And I tapped into this sacred masculine rage that I didn't
Hmm.
know existed within me. And it wasn't just fuck no to like that specific experience, but it was fuck no to all the programming that had been done to me. It was a fuck no to um any negativity, anything that was trying to come in between my girlfriend and I. It was a fuck no to all the pain and destruction that's being done on this planet right now. It was just like a massive sacred fuck no.
Yeah.
Um, so powerful. And then we went into the bioelectric work, and so you're tripping, you're on mushrooms, you're having all this stuff come up already, and then you're having the electricity coursing through you. And he had me locate where the pornography had been located in my body, where it still was, and just yeah, we just screamed it all out. We just screamed it all out. And yeah, I have it's like after that experience, I chilled out for a bit, looked at the moon outside, felt like a newborn baby. And since that experience, I've like completely like all of those thoughts have like completely left.
Hmm.
All the programming has completely left. So it was very powerful. And to other men were witnessing me and my catharsis and my release, and that was powerful. And I also got to witness other men in that process. But basically what the facilitators created there as we were walking into the ceremony, into the Maloka. The only thing I had had close to that was when I was being initiated into my fraternity. And I realized what they had built, what they're attempting to build, what they're building with these retreats is the real masculine initiation from boyhood to a feeling of sacred masculinity that our society is crucially missing. In past indigenous cultures, you had the sweat lodge or the psychedelic ceremony or the solo hunting party that takes the boy from the egocentric, all about me perspective into the sacred masculine. I'm here for the betterment, for the protection of the world. I'm not here for myself. And we need to face off with our fears to be able, in a deep, real way, to be able to do that, to be able to actually undergo that initiation. And all we have right now is like Greek life, which is like a far cry from that.
Hmm.
But
Animal House.
yeah, yeah, seriously.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was powerful, powerful work. It was really fascinating. And basically, um, Tyson and I are working. So I have already worked with one client who suffered from Sissy Hypno. Um, and I worked with them through my private one-on-one breathwork practice.
Mhm.
So what Tyson more specializes in the pornography recovery. Breath work helps with that. What my focus more is on is helping people come back to their bodies, reconnect to their bodies, and then learn how to use the breath to gain energy so they can get control of their addiction.
Mhm.
Tyson's more focused on pornography addiction recovery specifically and like going into the weeds with that, and then teaching men how to access and use their own life force. So we're working together.
Mhm.
He was the first client that I worked with Sissy Hypno. Um, but my door, yeah, my door is currently open to working with people who have gone through Sissy Hypno, who are experiencing gender dysphoria, or are in a place where they need to reconnect to their bodies, and find peace within their own bodies. Breathwork has been a powerful tool for me
Mhm.
to do that. But right now, we're actively working together, to create a system that will effectively help people get out of these holes that um, this pipeline is creating.
You
Um,
guys gonna advertise on Pornhub?
That would be epic. That would be hilarious. That would be
No,
smart. That would
there's
be
a lot
smart.
of money and power concentrated around keeping boys trapped in that. It's a huge, it's a huge problem. There's a lot of vested interest to keep it under wraps. Probably a lot of algorithmic suppression, and I know people who speak out about pornography addiction can get under fire from people who are actually paid by the pornography industry to take them down. But it, like I brought up, like it was very easy for you to go on the internet and type in boy becomes girl and be taken down this path. And it didn't sound like at any time during that did you accidentally put in something into Google and come up with some recovery stuff.
No,
Did it ever come across your path
no,
that there's resources out there?
no,
Yeah.
no. That's it. I felt completely alone. Um, and even during the breathwork training, like I opened up to the group. I was the group that I was training with. We had like 90 people in the training class, and I opened up to them. That was the first time I'd opened up to anyone about the sissy porn. I hadn't even talked to my girlfriend about it yet. And but even opening up to them was great. They were like everyone was like grateful for me sharing. But that was like I was 21. That was the first time I had told it. 22. That was the first time I told anyone about the sissy porn.
Mhm.
Um, so even the breath work, going through the breathwork workshops every other week, that was still kind of a solo endeavor, because even like the people in my training group didn't necessarily know how to like, it also wasn't focused on personal healing necessarily. We got a lot of that, but the training was focused on how do you become a facilitator.
Yeah.
We had to go through our own healing and stuff, but finding Tyson last August was very helpful. Because he had like he had been through it, he had come out the other side, so I wasn't alone finally. So what we're doing now is building more community because
Mm.
that's what we really need more than anything, is community, is
To break
is
down the
containers.
isolation.
Exactly. Exactly. So, um, yeah, like I said, I just founded my company in Spiritus Breathwork. And within Spiritus, it's not just about trauma release. It's not just about reconnection with the body, but I'm deeply inspired by Man's Search for Meaning and Viktor
Mm.
Frankl.
Mhm.
And I use these non-ordinary states of consciousness with breath work to help people find purpose in their life and find deep meaning. So that's what I do during my group workshops, during my one-on-one work. So you get the trauma release during it. Um, you get the healing, you get the reconnection with your body, but it's all connected with it's all contextualized with what is my purpose? Like, who are the most important people in my life? How do I want to contribute to my community in the world? What's the meaning of the suffering that I've been through? Contextualizing it with those questions. So, because, you know, the research into logotherapy into Viktor Frankl's work has shown that like having purpose, having strong purpose is a huge antidote to anxiety, depression, addiction, PTSD, so many mental illnesses. So,
And purpose that reaches beyond yourself into the lives of others.
100%, 100%. Going from a egocentric purpose mentality to a ecocentric mentality of purpose. There's this quote from Bill Plotkin. I have to give reference to him. He's the spiritual psychologist who developed the term ecocentricity. Um, but a good way to think about it is this quote from Man's Search for Meaning. He was talking about the I should probably give a bit of context for people who are listening, right? Um, Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, a psychiatrist, and his book Man's Search for Meaning is a inside perspective of the psychological perspective of what was happening inside of the concentration camps. And there were people who were being killed against their will, obviously, but there are also many people who were giving up the will to live. And the main thesis of his book is that the people who are giving up the will to live versus the people who continue to fight were the people who had purpose or not. And um he has this quote in there where he's talking about people who are giving up the will to live, and they would tell him, well, I don't have anything to expect from life anymore. Why should I continue on living? And he thought, like, how do you answer someone like that? And he said he had to learn for himself and for the other and how to teach the other despairing men in the camps that it didn't really matter at this point what we expected from life, but what life expected from us.
Hmm.
And that the true meaning of life wasn't found in some like this grandiose thing or meditation or talk, but in making the right choices and being responsible and for showing up to our community in the world and to deeply listening. What is the world expecting of me right now? What's the world expecting of me right now? And that was his entry. So that's ecocentricity versus egocentricity. Egocentricity, what's my purpose? Ecocentricity, what is the world asking of me? What is my community asking of me?
Hmm.
So I, with my clients at my group workshops, we use breath work to get into this ecocentric perspective to help people forge purpose in their
Hmm.
lives.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just hosted 66 people at a nightclub on Saturday. It
Oh,
was a
wow.
fully sound immersive breathwork workshop. No one has
This is
done
where
it
the
like that.
dubstep and the breath work come.
Boom! There it is. There it
Oh,
is. There it
jeez.
is. So no, that was awesome because no one's done breath work like that before, and I was able to birth
Hmm.
that idea into the world. I was able to facilitate that.
There you go, appropriating
Um,
womanhood yet again.
yeah. So yeah, no, it was great.
Hmm.
Um, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's where I'm at with Inspiritus right now. I've already worked with one guy around Sissy Hypno, gender dysphoria, and I
Hmm.
am really opening my doors to wanting to work with more people.
Well, that's I mean, speaking like capitalistically, there's a huge market for that, untapped market. But and speaking spiritually, there's a great need for that kind of work, and I think that resources need to be developed, and there's been like pot shots at that. But sounds like Tyson Adams is doing some good work too. I hope to connect with him and maybe learn more about what he's doing. Um, but you're like at the beginning of your project. So what caused you to, I guess we were connected by Christina Buttons. Do you feel that your society is asking you to speak about this? Is there a prompt in you, or did you just happen to meet people that
Yeah.
interview people?
Yeah. I deeply feel that, yeah, my story has been called by the world to share. And I I'm at a place where I have this story. I've been through it, and I also have um real effective psychological uh healing skills and tools that I have now from my breathwork training, from working with Tyson. And not only do I have myself, but I have this community of other people who are tapped into the same mission and vision, healing to help heal people.
Mm-hmm.
But with the combination of my story, with the level of expertise I have in this alternative therapy world of breathwork, um, I know breath work is was an incredibly effective tool for me, and I feel deeply called to share it, especially within this niche, because I have I have the story, I have that level of vulnerability, and empathy that I could connect with people that I'm working with in a
Mm-hmm.
very deep way, and I know the amount of suffering that's taking place within this community,
Yeah.
and I feel called to be of service
Yeah.
to this group.
There's a great kind of bind with men, because we are naturally inclined, I guess, to kind of keep things hidden, and it's part of kind of our job to suppress our emotions so we can get things done. But that works against us when we have been captured in this way and compromised in this way, and then isolated further and further and further until we start acting out and start, like in your case, putting yourself in harm's way, finding ways to get attention, that sped you further and further away from yourself, but the whole time, like empowering you or making you feel pseudo strength, or
Mm,
pseudo pleasure, pseudo
totally,
ecstasies. And
totally.
so voices like yours are incredibly important, especially because the women are not being serviced well, by this, and I don't think that they are in the place to, nor are they responsible for men solving this
No,
issue. It's kind
no,
of our responsibility, and then they can, reap the benefits, insofar as we can overcome and master ourselves.
definitely. Yeah, and it's been interesting getting on the other side of this and tapping into what and actually feeling what sacred masculinity means,
Mm,
because before I had this perception that if I feminize myself, then I would be safer, you know. Um,
hmm,
but now,
hmm,
I was out, they yeah, they put us on the guest list of the nightclub after I led there and went for a bit. I was really tired after leading breathwork on Saturday, so we didn't stay there too long. But it was cool to kind of like celebrate, and dance a bit after, because I'd been working on this event for like 4 months. It was intense, but
hmm.
my girlfriend was getting hot dogs at this little hot dog stand outside of the club, and this little old Mexican lady was making the hot dogs. And this drunk idiot comes out and he's like, "Hey, can I like put my foot up on your hot dog stand?" And the lady just like asked him like politely not to. And then this guy got all angry at her and was like, "What the fuck? Like, did you just tell me no?" Like all this stuff. And I would have never done this before the retreat and before all the work that I've done. But I instantly stood in there. I put my hand on his chest and I told him like, back the fuck away. Do not talk to this woman like that. Do not do this. Like, back the fuck up. And I wasn't like, I didn't hit him. Like, I didn't do anything overtly aggressive, but like, I stood in my masculine strength and my power in that fuck no energy. You're not going to hurt this woman like this. Um, and he fucking ran away. He walked away. And that's that's what we really need. That's what men really need to be. We
Hmm.
need to be able to hold that sacred masculine energy with confidence and strength and power and peace and
Hmm.
only use it when we have to, but that's one of the things we're here on this planet to do. And that's what the world's calling of us right now with everything with ecosystem breakdown, with rising totalitarianism, with like rising AI, everything we're facing, like there needs to be more men who step into that fuck no energy. Like
Hmm.
we're enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Hmm. That's a great place to end it, Shane Cole. I'm gonna reach back out to you because I want to hear like as you develop. But for the time being, I'll link whatever links you want me to link in the place where I link the links. Do you have any links for me to link? And you want to give a shout out to your business where people can
Yeah,
contact
yeah,
you?
totally. So my Instagram is Breathing with Shane, super simple. And then
Hmm.
I'll give you the link to inspiritusbreathwork.com.
Okay.
Inspiritusbreathwork.com. So if you could post that in the comments of the YouTube, that would be great. You can learn more about me, learn more about the Inspiritus Breathwork philosophy, and there's a button to connect with me. I do free discovery calls where I teach you a daily breathwork practice, and then we talk about your specific needs and what you want to accomplish. And then, yeah, I'll also link you with Tyson. Um, he's great. You guys would definitely have an awesome conversation. And I'm wondering, Benjamin, at the end
Hmm.
here,
Yeah.
if you would be open and if your community would be open to me walking you through a 5 minute daily breathwork practice.
Okay.
Um, I did one with Christina
Oh, really?
and she actually really enjoyed it. Um, but I would love to offer this to you and your community.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Let's breathe together.
Sweet. Um, so this is the Inspiritus Breathwork Daily. It's just a combination from all the different types of breathwork that I've learned from Awaken to Wim Hof. Um, but if if you're listening to this while you're driving, or if you like, you have to do this breathwork sitting down and like not driving. So if anyone's listening while they're driving or doing something, please do not do this if you're standing up or if you're walking somewhere. If you're driving, you have to do this while
Hmm.
sitting. So we're going to breathe powerfully in through our mouth and then easy out without taking a pause in between the breath, filling the belly and the chest with each breath, hearing ourselves powerfully breathe in and then letting it go. So it's going to look like this. Let me show you a side view of my body
Yeah.
here.
The way that the audio is being normalized, we can't hear it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I just yeah.
Okay. So just like that. So like yep, just like that. So hearing yourself breathe in, you could stop now. We'll start in a second.
Okay.
Hearing yourself breathe in and then letting it out, filling the belly and the chest. We're gonna take 10 of those breaths. Then on the last one, we'll breathe all the way in and then all the way out, and then hold at the bottom with no air in your lungs for 10 seconds.
Mm.
Then we're gonna do 20 breaths. Last one, all the way in, all the way out. Then hold for 20 seconds. And then you're going to do 30 breaths. And then the last one, all the way in, all the way out. And then hold for 30 seconds at the
Mm.
bottom with no air. Your bloodstream is going to be hyperoxygenated from the intense breathing. So you're actually going to be able to hold your breath for much longer than you would think. It's a really
Okay.
cool feeling. I've been able to hold my breath for like 3 to 4 minutes with no air in my lungs because of this breathing.
Hmm.
So, you'll definitely be able to do 30. After holding at the bottom for 30 seconds, we're going to take a deep breath in and squeeze our pelvic floor muscles, the muscles we used to go to the bathroom with.
Yeah.
That's going to send a bunch of blood up our spine into our head. It's going to make us feel really good. Hold that at the top for 15 seconds and then let go. Um, so that'll take around like 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay.
And then you're gonna start to feel tingly. You're gonna start to feel waves of vibrations going through your body. Maybe even a bit of lightheadedness. That's that natural high I was telling you about that comes on
Mhm.
very quickly. That's what you're supposed to be feeling. Okay. It's tapping into your own life force, your own internal healing intelligence, and people immediately feel it.
Hmm.
So, yeah, do you have any questions?
The pelvic floor thing happens at the very end.
Very end. So we'll
Okay.
hold our breath at the bottom with no air for 30 seconds, then a deep breath in, holding at the top for 15 seconds and squeezing.
Okay.
And then letting go. But I'm gonna guide you all through it. You don't have to remember the numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just giving you an overview of what's
Okay.
gonna take place before doing it.
All
So
right.
yeah. So when you're ready,
Yeah.
any other questions or
No, no, we're good.
great,
I'm ready.
great, great. So whenever you're ready, you can close your eyes. And before starting a daily practice, just setting an intention. So just asking yourself, what do you want to get out of this? Do you want to let go of something that's been on your mind? Do you want to focus on something that's about to come out? Do you just want to experience this for the first time, see what it is? Okay. We can start the breathing in through our mouth in 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. Filling the belly and the chest. Keep going. Three more. Last one deeply in. All the way out. Emptying your lungs. Holding at the bottom for 10 seconds. Next set. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. Powerfully in. Easily out. Keep going. Focusing on the breath. Halfway through. Focusing on the breath. 5 more. Last one deeply in. All the way out. Holding at the bottom for 20 seconds. Becoming still. Feeling all that there is to feel right now. All right, last set. We got this. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. Keep going. Filling the belly and the chest. Filling the belly and the chest. Halfway through. Focusing on the breath. 5 more. Giving it your all. Last one, deepest in. And all the way out. Becoming still. Feeling all the tinglies, all the vibrations. And taking a deep breath in, squeezing pelvic floor at the top. Squeeze. And release. And keeping your eyes closed for just a moment. Letting your breathing return to normal through your nose. And just sitting with this feeling for a moment. And before opening your eyes, asking yourself the question internally with your thoughts, what is my community asking of me right now? Asking that question and seeing if any thoughts or feelings or images arise. What is my community asking of me right now? And when you're ready, wiggling your fingers and your toes, Slowly blinking your eyes open, just reorienting yourself to the room before looking back at the computer screen. How was that for you?
It's not something I normally film, so I'm just going to have you on the camera. But thank you very much. It's been a stressful few days here too, so it's nice to get a little orientation via that method.
Totally.
It is very
Totally.
grounding, though.
Yeah. Could you feel the vibrations coming on?
Yeah, there's different levels of the vibration. There's a bodily
Mm-hmm.
vibration. There's a
Mm-hmm.
under vibration too. I
Mm-hmm.
was not that was coming into view later
Mm-hmm.
on.
Totally.
But yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. And then using that state of consciousness we get into to then figure out what your purpose is for just today or right now, you know? So
Mm,
just having those little check-ins because our purpose is constantly changing, you know?
yeah.
So
The ecology is just like the climate, man. It's made to
yeah,
change.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
defined by
totally,
change. Yeah.
totally, totally. So yeah, you're definitely right. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for holding space, for asking such thought-provoking questions, and yeah, you helped me understand myself more
Mm,
through some of your questions. And I know you've interviewed a lot of people like this in this world. So yeah, it means
mm.
a lot.
No, thank you very much, Shane, for opening up and for being um, available in this way to put out your story so that other people can take processes if they so desire to heal from this and other afflictions, especially that have taken over and subverted men in this time.
Yeah. Yeah. And women too,
Mm,
like
yeah.
we're not just being brainwashed by the sissy porn,
Hmm.
all the
Hmm.
social media, all the advertising, all the news propaganda,
Hmm.
everything,
Yeah.
everything, gotta take our power back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah,
Well, all right, brother. You have a
yeah.
good day, and I'll reach out to you, and we can share information that I was going to ask from.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And when do you think the YouTube would be up, like the video would be up by?
I never know. It could be three
Okay.
days. It could be 3 weeks, but it'll probably be pretty soon.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know
Okay.
before it
Okay.
comes out.
Sweet.
All right,
Sweet.
brother.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank
Bless
you,
you. And
Shane. Have a
yeah,
good
I
day.
hope you have a great day. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.